Who would say no to a sauna which you could park at the best locations of the city, maybe in a park on the riverside or whatever, park it closer to your fridge? Our self-built sauna can reach temperatures up to 110 degrees. Even most walls are completely out of plastic. This is because we aim to make it movable by hand, requiring only 3 people. So we constructed the sauna, which later even got nominated for one of the world's largest architecture awards. We started by asking ourselves how we could fit at least 5 people into a tiny space. The problem would be they would be all undressed and sweating and didn't want to touch each other. So it's like puzzling, but with humans and keeping their personal space bubble intact. So we thought a lot and came up with the idea of using an oven which could be operated from outside. This not only saves a lot of space, but also keeps the dirt and fumes directly outside. We realized that we wouldn't need the space under the benches and therefore just cut it off to save weight. But in this scenario, the sauna would tumble over, so we needed something to hold it upright. So we came up with our next idea, using some legs, which later could be rotated and then serve as a giant drawbar which we could use to pull the sauna, just as we would pull a giant wheelbarrow. But with this tumbling moment of the sauna shifting from standing to transport mode, even if we managed to build a relatively light sauna, it would be quite scary of an entire building just tumbling over. So we lengthened the roof that you could hang on one side and then someone on the other side could loosen the screws to convert the legs into a drawbar. Even though we weren't sure this would work, we hoped for the best and tried to solve one of our biggest problems yet: the weight. It is probably the crucial point behind the whole construction, making sure it doesn't become too heavy, which would make it immovable. We had to come up with a material that was much lighter than the wood usually used in saunas. Normally, you would just use any lightweight plastics, but in this case, it had to withstand the heat of the sauna and the increased heat of the stove. And being honest, most plastics sharing the same fear as an ice cube in a sauna. We visited a company which maybe produces such a material just around our city we live in. They gave us a tour of their production facilities, which was really interesting for us to see. But they also had no idea if the polycarbonate plates which they produce would withstand the heat. So we thought we would give it a try and tell them afterwards. They agreed to support us and supplied us with the necessary material. We realized that polycarbonate was also not without downsides, but later more on that. After a lot of planning, thinking, drawing, we weren't sure at all that our experiment would work, but we started building. First we collected all the steel rods, but because they were way too long to fit on the car, we cut them roughly on site. The workshop is 2 hours away from the university, but there we had all the necessary tools and space to build all the stuff. It was interesting to see all the 3D drawings come to life in reality. But with every piece we welded in place, the sauna got bigger and bigger, and we weren't sure if it would be still legal to transport the whole sauna with just a regular car. I already pictured us taking casually some traffic signs with us. So before we welded everything together, we checked one more time that we were still in the legal height limits of driving on street. Since this was fine, we tried to solve our problem with the polycarbonate. Due to the temperature difference, the material would shrink and expand a lot. Imagine it stretching, but with no room to go, tension builds up until it snaps. I would rather run and not relax close to it. To give you some values, on the long sides of the material it would expand up to 3 centimeters. That means we couldn't just screw it in place. That's why we decided to weld on a steel frame, inserted the polycarbonate plates and then screwed a wooden strip from behind which squeezes the plates into position. This holds them quite tight, but also gives them enough room to move around. Then we had a great idea of installing concealed hinges for the door, which took Emil almost a day to get all the holes into the frame. Turns out that making something look simple can be so complicated, but in the end it looked pretty cool. After a few days of working late into the night, even while it was snowing, we had welded both sides together and built a mount for the wheels and the axle of the handle. A few layers of paint later, we covered all the steel parts, first with a primer and then with a rubber-like varnish to protect the frame from scratches. By then it was time to bring everything back to the university. Of course it had to snow overnight, so it was just a pain to get everything on the car, and obviously not the best conditions to drive 2 hours with an old car. In the end I was just so happy to arrive back in the city we live in that I immediately got caught by a speed camera. But I think the picture is compensating for it. It was the first time this happened to me with this car, because it's hard to reach anything what is worth being called speed. The frame was movable pretty well, so let's see how it will change when we put the wood and afterwards the stove inside. But one thing is sure, it won't lose weight. We used plywood as a base, to which we would later attach the benches. The wheels needed a housing to close all the holes where hot air could escape. From there on, things went a little bit more fluently, because having a room with decent temperature and a light makes work so much more enjoyable. In the end, time was slipping away from us, turning sleep into an underrated luxury as the intensity cranked up with each passing day. We trimmed the wooden strips, carefully aligning them to eventually press the polycarbonate snugly into place. After pre-drilling through the material underneath, we were set to drive in regular screws, securing everything precisely where it was meant to be. To ensure that all components stay in place, a layer of silicone was added. Out of fear of not leaving enough expansion room for the polycarbonate, we overcompensated and ended up cutting off a bit too much, not only once but twice. After yet another drive to the company, we found ourselves sheepishly confessing that we might have just perhaps wasted their material and were in need of 2 new plates. We finished the exterior walls and could now finally turn our attention to the interior. We chose roof battens because they were affordable, and with just one cut, a bit of planing and some edge routing, they met our expectations for the bench material. Inside the sauna we have designed 3 levels that form a temperature gradient. The top level is for the sauna astronauts aiming for the sun, while the bottom level is for those who like it a little bit cooler. The challenge lays in hiding the screw heads on the seating area to prevent them from turning into miniature hot plates. Not everyone appreciates these tiny screw head tattoos, so we assembled it outside the sauna, securing everything from beneath before moving them into the final position inside. Next we mounted the backrests one by one, and there we were, already dreaming about the peaceful sauna sessions ahead, but still in our dusty workshop clothes. Even the most important part was not built in yet. Thanks to a Finnish company, we were gifted with an oven, and this led to us installing the oven. This took some effort and pretty large screws. Then the chimney challenge emerged. We had to navigate it through the plastic roof without the risk of melting it when lighting the oven. The only insulated chimney we could find at the right size came with a luxury price tag of 500 euros. Nearly half the original oven's cost. We hoped that the isolation would prove as effective as the money we paid for it would suggest. By now, the final screws were in place, marking the moment we all have been waiting for, removing the protective plastic film and taking our creation outside the first time. We were so stoked. Yes, it was heavy, but still, we thought it would be just movable with 3 people, but we easily managed to move it with 2. So it was way better than we thought. Also, the idea with the counterweight proved to be a lifesaver. It enabled an easy lifting process and ensured we could hold the sauna in place while the legs would unfold. We were deeply relieved and thankful to have completed the project. It took some time to implement it completely into the university. But this is how it looks now and how it has been used for over 1 year at the campus. The project is essentially a playful rebellion, transforming underutilized or car-dominated space into a place of well-being. It's challenging the status quo in society, driven by a hectic pace of life, setting a flag of calm and care in the city's heart. But to be honest, it's also a little bit edgy and therefore mobile, so we can swiftly move away to avoid any trouble. To everyone who stuck around to the end, if you like that, please subscribe. Your support will help to bring more of the projects to this channel.